Good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well this morning. This is Tiffany Kinney with the Home-Based Professional Learning Team speaking. You are in today's webinar called Entering ALP Roster Data in PowerSchool. Today, Dr. Ken Gaddis will be presenting this presentation to you. And we also have Jennifer Watson from the Center for Safer Schools. A few housekeeping items before we get started. I want to make sure that you can hear me okay. So if you would, locate that little hand icon, and if you will raise your hand if you can hear my voice clearly. All right. Thank you. All right, I'm going to put your hands down now. And also, if you can see my screen, which has the opening slide of entering ALP roster data in PowerSchool, if you'll raise your hand. You can see my screen. All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. Also, you will find out in the handouts section in your GoToWebinar bar, I have already placed the PowerPoint presentation by Dr. Gaddis. It is in the handout section, so you can download that to keep for later and to reference back to. You also are more than welcome to send in questions. You will find an area where it says questions, and you can type those in when you have questions as they come up. We will stop periodically to answer these questions and also at the very end of this webinar. All right, so if there are no further questions, you can hear, you can see my screen, then we're going to go ahead and get started. Ken, you ready?
Yes.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. This morning we're going to talk about entering ALP roster data in PowerSchool. And we've got this split up into 4 parts. ALP data reporting requirements. We're going to talk about why we have to report this data. Then we're going to talk about how do we assign a student to an ALP program. And then thirdly, we're going to talk about mass enrolling students in ALP, which would only be done by freestanding alternative learning schools. So, and alternative schools should consider whether or not they even want to use this, but it's possible this could save you a few steps depending on how many students you have on the first day of class. And finally, we're going to talk about running the ALP report and why that's important. Now, most of these topics are covered on pages 17 to 19 of the Discipline Data Reporting Procedures, and there we have a link to that document. Okay, the requirement to report ALP data comes from State Statute 115C-12, Powers and Duty of the Board of Education generally. And item 27 states the State Board shall report annually on the numbers of students who have been placed in an alternative program. Now, it also requires us to report on other things too, discipline type data. The data shall be reported in a disaggregated manner reflecting the local school administrative unit, race, gender, grade level, ethnicity, and disability status of each affected student. Okay, so let's talk about how we do assign a student to an ALP program. We're going to start by selecting a student, and that's not shown on the screen here. Once we have a student selected in PowerSchool, we're going to go to the left side of the main page under Enrollment and select Special Programs, and then we're going to, on that Special Programs page, we're going to select New. And so that puts us on a page called New Special Program Enrollment. So this would be how we get this particular student assigned to any special program, and in this case, it's going to be an ALP program. So at the top of the page, we have a place to enter the date information when a student, you can see in the a date entry box, an entry and an exit date, and then a program box, and then a reason code, and then finally a submit button. And then we've got a screen that's going to show us what the sequence of things that we'll be doing. We're going to enter that entry date by typing or clicking on the date in the calendar. You can enter the exit date, but only if the student has already exited, which could be the case if you're just starting for this year. Perhaps you've already had a student that was already in your program for a few days and maybe left the district, and you may need to enter that. Also, eventually, you'll need to come back and enter the exit date for all students that are in the program at the end of the year, because this is just a collection of data for 1 year, and all students will be exited at the end of the year in this data. Now, the next thing, number 6, you're going to do is next to the program, you're going to select alternative program from the drop-down box. And then next to enter code, select an appropriate ALP enter reason from the drop-down box. And if you see other reasons, make sure that you only use reasons that begin with ALP. And then click submit. Let's take a look at some of those enter codes. PLT is placed instead of a long-term suspension. PLC, placed because of chronic misbehavior. PLF, placed because of a felony charge. PLD, placed after an EC hearing for discipline reasons. PLA, placed after EC hearing for academic reasons. So, of course, those two are only for EC students. DIF, academic difficulty. ACC, academic acceleration or credit recovery. CHO, student and or parent choice. EMP, employment-related placement. PRG, a pregnancy-related placement. ATT, use this if the student has had attendance problems and that's why the student is being assigned. PER, personal and or family problems. EMO, emotional and or psychological problems. XFR, a transfer from an ALP or a therapeutic correctional facility. Many districts require that students coming from alternative programs or other type programs, special programs, start at the district at the alternative program or alternative school as a matter of policy. And if that's the case with your district and the student gets placed there, as soon as they get in the school district, it would be XFR. And then finally, DRP for dropout recovery. Okay, let's talk about mass enrolling students in ALP. You would select students from the start page, or in most cases, if you're going to do mass enrolling, you're probably going to select all, because this is going to be at an alternative school and you're going to need to put all of your students in this special enrollment system. You already have your students enrolled as an enrollment in your school, but this is a data collection system. So whether or not it's an alternative program student or an alternative school student, all students must be enrolled in. If that's the case and you're an alternative school, then all of your students will go in this system. So this might save you a few steps. So we select all your students. We still need to go to the step of selecting this select students by hand. So even if we select all of our students, we're still going to use the step select students by hand. We click on that. And then you could, if you only were going to select certain students, you would select certain ones, but unless there's some kind of special case at your school and you're an alternative school, this is going to be all of your students. You would make sure they were all had a blue line. You can use the control key to select all of them, and then after selecting the students, click functions, and then on this page called group functions, you're going to select mass enroll special program. And then on the Mass Enroll Special Program page, select Alternative Program from the Program drop-down menu. If you were putting a student in another special program, you'd select that program. But this one, you would select Alternative Program. Then enter the entry date into the program for the entire group of students. And so this is probably only going to be used for when you have a mass of students that are in the system in your school on the first day of school. Possibly maybe at the beginning of the second semester, maybe you had a lot of students assigned to your school. You might want to use this mass enroll feature again. But you're going to use that common entry date for all the students that you're going to use here. You could put in an exit date, but if you did that, you would have to change the date if students leave on different dates. So you may or may not decide to use that. Then you're going to click on Submit. So what we've accomplished here is basically getting all the students in the system with a common first day of school date. You're still going to need to go back, even if you use Mass Enroll, you'll need to go back to each student and enter an entry code, an ALP entry code for each student. Okay, now let's talk about running the ALP report. The ALP report is in the state reports, and there's two reasons to run it. One is to view an ALP roster for the school or for this particular program, and so you want to see all your ALP students in your school, or maybe all your ALP students in your LEA. This is a good way to do it, and really the only easy way to see all of your students in a list. But also you want to run this ALP report because this is what submits the data to DPI, just like the discipline report and the dropout report and many other state reports. It's running the report that pushes the data up into the cloud, and the cloud is where we go up to run our reports, to gather all that data, and to then see our state reports. So to run that ALP report, click on State Reports. And so we'll select State Reports under Reports, which we just did. Now we're going to find Alternative Learning Program Report in the list of detail reports and click Run. At the top of the page, we're going to click Refresh one more time to cause the system to complete the processing of the report. And finally, we're going to click Review, which is the button next to the Run tab. So here's a page that shows us selecting the Run button next to Alternative Learning Program Report. So the program runs, and as we said, also you may need to click Refresh button to make sure that the report has finished running and that then it can be viewed. When you see the Review button appear, you'll know that the report is ready, and then you can click on the Review button. So after we click on that Review button, we'll go to we'll see a page, and the page at the top will have Data Views. You select ALP Detail in order to view the report. After the ALP Detail report is displayed, click Clear Cache at the bottom right of the first page of data, and then rerun the report. This is a method to make sure that all the students have been captured in the report, and sometimes you need to do need to clear the cache and to rerun the report in order to make sure that it's up to date. You may want to glance over your report and see if it looks okay. If you're sure it's okay and you've got all the students, you will need to do that. But if you think something's wrong with the report, it's not capturing everything, make sure you click Clear Cache and then rerun. You may now print the report if desired by clicking Export at the bottom of the page. And then if you want to see, if you make sure that you have no errors, you can change the selection from Data Views to Exceptions in order to view any exceptions If there are no exceptions, you'll see a flag that says no validations. So here's the top of that page. This is after you click the review button, and at the top of the page, you see Data View. When you click on Data View, then it will display any results. In this particular screenshot, there are no results, probably because there's no data in this case. Or there would be, your report would show up under results. Now on this page, you can actually see some results. Well, actually, all you see is actually the top of the columns. You still have no data in it, but you can see the column headings of the data if you did have data already entered. If you run your report and you haven't entered anything, you will come up with 0, like the screen display. You can also see on here where you would go to find that clear cache button if you need to try to run it again. Clear the cache and run it again. Here's again, the top of that report. This is what appears after you click the review button, and you can toggle from data views to exceptions. And if you click on exceptions, that's where you would see any errors that you might have, like a missing reason code, or you'll see a no validations sign if there's no exceptions or no errors. And that's it for running the report and all the presentation today. Hopefully that is clear to everyone. If you're new to running ALP data, feel free to ask us a question. You may type it in right now, and we'll go ahead and handle it. If it's maybe it's a little more complicated and you'd rather just contact Jennifer or me personally, you may do that, and you can see our contact information on the screen.
Okay, you guys, if you'll go ahead and send in your questions. I failed to mention at the beginning, we are recording the session, so we will get this session, the recorded session, posted on our NCSIS website under recorded refreshers within the next couple of days. So if you'll go ahead and send in your questions regarding ALP, we have definitely some time, as this is usually a very short presentation, but we are here to answer any questions if you have them. So please go ahead and send those in. I'm also going to write in the chat the NCSIS website. That is where the recording will be posted under training and recorded refreshers. All right. Mark, we don't usually send out a notification when the recorded video is posted. We just say give us up to a week. It usually does not take us that long. It usually takes a couple of days, if that. When it is posted, you will see under recorded refreshers, it will have the date as well of the webinar. So how often do you run this report?
I would run the report once you get your initial students entered that you have at the beginning of the school year. Make sure it's up and running, and then whenever you make more than just a one or two changes, whenever you have a few changes in the system and you want to get a new roster for yourself, that may be a good time to rerun it. Also, it shows us that you're kind of paying attention out there and keeping up with it, because we can run the report during the school year and then see the students. If you don't run the report more than just once at the beginning of the school year and once at the end, then sometimes, you know, we may have to contact you and make sure that you're still still entering data and following and doing all the edits that you're supposed to be doing. So I would say at a minimum run it 3 times a year, at the beginning of the school year, in the middle, and then towards the end of the year. Make sure you run it one last time before the end of the school year so that you get all your updates. And then, of course, run it any other times you want to get an updated roster.
Thank you. All right, you guys, if you'll go ahead and send in those questions. We've caught up with the questions so far. We'll give you a few more minutes to send those in. Is this report able to capture students that were part of the program during the year? Example, we may have had many withdraw throughout the year, many exit at the change of the semester.
Let's read that one more time.
Yes. Is this report able to capture students that were part of the program during the year? Example, we may have many withdrawal throughout the year, so many exit at the change of the semester.
Yes, absolutely. The report, that's the purpose of the report, is to capture all enrollments in your system. Any student that is intended to be in an alternative program for a grading period or more. Now, if you have some small systems may have like a hybrid system. You have like one room, and in that room you have your alternative program students that are long-term placed, and also you may have some students doing in-school suspension for a few days. Do not enter the students that are sent just for a few days for in-school suspension, but any student that you intend to have a long-term placement with, even if that student maybe leaves in 5 days or 10 days, if the intention was to place the student into an alternative program, they get placed and then they leave, that counts as an ALP enrollment for the school year, and the state, that's one of the things that the state wants to capture.
Thank you. And I had a couple questions of where this would be posted, so I'm going to show you this if I can get out of this webinar, or not the webinar, the presentation screen. So I had a question regarding where can I find this recording when it's posted. So, all right, perfect. So I'm on the ncsys.org website, and right here, if you navigate to training, you have a training calendar, which is where we post all our webinars and trainings. But if you go under right here to recorded refreshers, so again, this is the NCSys website, nc-sys.org, training and recorded refreshers. We post them here. And so you will see all our archived webinars or presentations. They live here and they have the dates. So it will be posted here under, it'll be called ALP in PowerSchool, ALP reporting. So that's where they live. Great question. Is it okay to mass enter exit date in the future, like end of year, as long as we update that for any that leave sooner?
Yes, it's okay to do that. And you know, the way you ask your question, I can tell that's a strategy. You prefer to do it that way. Go ahead and have the default be the end of the school year, but then you'll just need to, whenever students leave early, you'll need to go in and change that date.
All right. think we've caught up with questions. On your screen, you will see also, let me do this. You will see email addresses if you have questions about ALP rostering. I wanted to put that back on the screen. All right. Any other questions, you guys? Well, it looks like we've caught up with all the questions that have come in, and I've read any relevant questions out loud. So again, this is recorded, so you are more than welcome to go back and listen to this recording. Reminder, in the handout section, if you joined us late, I did upload the PowerPoint to this presentation, so that is in your handouts, and so you can download that to reference later. But we appreciate your time and attention this morning, and if you have any questions, there's the email addresses to reach out to, and we appreciate you, and we'll give you some time back in your day today. Have a great day. Take care.